All right, and we're live on Flippin' the Mic. He is Mike Gansey of the Daily Stash. I am James Flippin of Flippin' Out Radio, and we are ready to get after it with what I believe is the third episode. Pretty
Number
sure three in the books here as we go along and get closer to the official start of spring, and we're moving along with spring training. And look, it's the first, I guess, official bump in the road, or the big bump in the road for the New York Mets here as they get the season going, as Carlos Carrasco is going to be missing quite a bit of time, and it doesn't have anything to do, at least not specifically, with his elbow that he said was barking over the last week or so. He suffered a hamstring strain, and I saw the tweet, I think it was from Mike Puma, where he said that it's of the more significant severity on the strain side. So he's probably going to be missing upwards of 2 months, month and a half.
Yeah, they said 6 to 8 weeks minimum. So it looks like we're joking last week about, not joking, but talking about depth and stuff. And it looks like two of Jordan Yamamoto, Joe Lucchesi, and David Peterson, two of those guys are going to make the rotation now. It sure seems like.
Well, look, first of all, I just want to make it clear. And again, Flipping the Mic, I'm James Flippin. He's Mike Gansey. We're in off-season mode right now, and that has to be made clear because I've come to realize that my off-season optimism basically knows no bounds. And there's a number of reasons why, and we've gotten into that in the past, and we don't have to rehash the whole ownership change type thing. But I'm wearing my new shirt for the first time.
Wow.
Mets World Series 1986 champion shirt. A couple weeks ago, I'd ordered it off a website. I also got a Knicks sweatshirt that I've yet to wear. So again, I'm breaking out some new duds, and that always inspires a little bit of confidence. But here's the big thing for me when it comes to the injury news and why it doesn't necessarily have me down in the dumps. And you hit on the main point of it in terms of them actually having some depth they can rely on, like a Joey Lucchesi and a Jordan Yamamoto. But I think it happened to the perfect guy at the perfect time. And I think that this is actually generally a good thing for the Mets that this happened right now. And I know that's weird and probably coming off as contrarian and kind of trying to be that guy and all that kind of thing. But I have my reasons. First of all, I saw a great tweet from somebody where they said that the last time, and it's probably a bit of an exaggeration or maybe not, the last time the Mets ever really made it through a full season with their starting rotation intact or the two times it happened were 69 and 86. Now, again, maybe that belies how nice it is to have that happen for your starting rotation. And thinking back to 2015, they certainly had a lot of healthy seasons and a lot of healthy innings for the most part out of that starting rotation that kind of carried them to the pennant. But I feel like this is the right guy for it to happen to, right? He's getting into camp late. He's dealing with extra medical tests because of the leukemia that he battled in the past. His elbow is bothering him and all this kind of stuff. Maybe everybody's human, right? Rushing to get ready for opening day a little bit. And this is a guy that's not going to struggle coming back later in the season because he's a veteran. This isn't his first rodeo. He's not going to feel behind the eight ball mentally or anything like that. He's going to go through what he has to go through in rehab and make it out the other side and potentially be a great addition to the starting rotation around the time that maybe Noah Syndergaard is also getting healthy. And we already have spoken about how, he's basically like trading for a frontline starter. So I mean,
those keywords.
So again, tell me I'm crazy, but I mean, I'm not
crazy, but it has nothing to do with the Mets.
Yeah.
But you already knew that.
Exactly.
But I mean, I understand. Take your time, get better. I think the other element here is the Mets offense is a lot better than it's been in some of those years where we've lost that pitching. So the Mets this offense could win 8-6, 9-7, games like that. No, there's no automatic out in the lineup. I mean, 1-8 right now, you got to figure the pitcher's hitting right. Although I still haven't given up on the DH. Call me crazy. I still haven't given up on it. Think it's a bargaining chip. Knowing MLB and the owners, how deviant they could be, it wouldn't surprise me if they made that announcement a week before the season because it makes no sense. And half the times during these negotiations, things come out that make no sense. So, I think, and teams have also said that they're preparing as if it still could happen. So, and that's not just the Mets, it's others, but so we'll see. But 1 to 8, because you got to figure like a Brian McCann might be the 8 hitter. And that's pretty damn good 8 hitter. It's not quite the days where John Mayberry Jr. is hitting cleanup.
Yeah, right. No, you're absolutely right. There's no question about it that their offense has significantly better potential than a lot of the offenses we with as Mets fans in the past. And to the point where I think it's largely player speak when a guy like Marcus Stroman says, "Oh, we need Carlos Carrasco to be at an elite level." Now, you want to say something along the lines of you get into a short series or you get into October and we need a Carlos Carrasco in order to be at an elite level. Okay, yeah, I largely agree with you on that. But the way I look at this as a fan that's watched a lot of baseball and something where we've talked about the need to have that depth in place from a starting rotation perspective. Sure. This is an opportunity to get some innings, to get your feet wet, to get that baptism by fire, whatever you want to call it, for guys like Yamamoto and Joey Lucchesi, because you're going to need those guys, even if it's not as a traditional starting, even if it's not as a traditional starter midway through the season or towards the end of the season. You're going to need to lean on those guys for innings. So I'd rather not have them go to Syracuse, pitch in 45-degree weather, throw off their, whole aspect of being a swingman or whatever, because they probably actually just go and start games for them. It says something to me where, okay, fine, we're not going to have to make that sort of tough decision right now on a guy like Yamamoto and Lucchesi, because they should both break camp with the club. I don't know. I mean, look, I was talking to my brother before the show tonight, and he basically kind of looked at me like I had two heads when I said maybe David Peterson's the odd man out right now.
It's not ridiculous. And you know what? I love the fact that Peterson, by all accounts, pitched very well last year, and better than I would have thought, probably better than you would have thought, most people. But yet he's promised nothing because it's trial by fire. Both Joe and Lucchesi. Can't say it without the thick Italian flair.
Exactly.
And Yamamoto have done very well for themselves this spring. So right now, I would have to think he's in third. If it's me, I saw a thing today that Mike Montgomery has a chance to make the team as a swing guy because he has an opt-out. But you know what? I don't love when decisions, especially on minor league guys, don't make decisions based on that, because it should be in my opinion, the best of the best break camp. Right. And I think those three should all be on the team. I think a guy like Joe and Lucchesi could be in the pen. I also think Yamamoto might do well there. And you talk about October. We could all dream about October, right? So imagine there's still a couple of unknowns, obviously. We don't know which Marcus Stroman we're going to get. Are we going to get the Blue Jays Marcus Stroman that was a Cy Young contender? As you said, as we talked about, who was it that picked him as a dark horse?
CC Sabathia.
Sabathia, right.
He was with, by the way, connecting to another thing we'll talk about on the show, who was alongside Governor Cuomo today when it was announced that 20% capacity will be allowed at Citi Field and Yankee Stadium this year. So CC Sabathia was part of that official announcement. But yeah, it was him who said that he thinks Marcus Stroman could put together a Cy Young caliber season.
Right.
It's a stretch to me because, I mean, nowadays they look to the strikeouts and the, sort of like high-end pitching numbers in that respect. As opposed
he's had a very good spring too.
Yeah.
And then I think right now the biggest question, I'll go out on a limb and say on the entire Mets team is who is Taijuan Walker. What kind of Taijuan Walker are we getting? Mm-hmm. Are we getting the Taijuan Walker who at his worst is a borderline fifth starter? Or are we getting the Taijuan Walker who at his best could be a low-end ace? That's how good he could be when he's really on his game.
Right.
I mean, if the Mets would be happy if they got 80%, 70 to 80% of the way to that top guy, and a 2-3, and then you could have the other guys round out, because like we said, the Mets could slug with anybody. between, and then thinking about the lineup and could go any which way. They alternate right, left. It's a tough matchup for any team. And you still have that stupid rule with the 3 batters. So it's, I wasn't sure it was in existence. I've since learned it still is. So, I'm not as overly concerned as I would be on a normal year, like we discussed. And I went on a tangent for a second, but think October. So let's say Stroman and Walker are both really good. You have DeGrom, you have Carrasco back, Stroman, maybe Walker. And how about a guy like Noah Syndergaard out of the bullpen?
Yeah.
Like filling that role. Oh my gosh. Nationals, the lefty, Corbin. Corbin came out of the pen, and I think Strasburg or Scherzer came out too. So that basically won them the World Series, the fact that those guys were in the pen. So,
well, I mean, yeah, and going back even further in that respect, it's not exactly the same thing because he was starting a ton as well. But one of my favorite years as a baseball fan, 2001, when the Diamondbacks beat the Yankees.
Yes.
Just the fact that like Randy Johnson was looming to like always come in the game like late in that season, like, even out of the pen, was just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, the notion that maybe that's how they overcome whatever concerns they have from like an innings perspective with Syndergaard. You kind of have him let out the line a little bit and start some games when he first comes back. And then if he sort of ramps it back and is pitching out of the bullpen, I don't know. I mean, obviously it worked for John Smoltz, right? When he came back from his Tommy John surgery. So
that's got to be the best example of anybody in our generation that's made the convert. I mean, Eckersley was a guy that did it really well, starting and relieving.
True.
But that was, I mean, you and I didn't really see much of him in his heyday.
No, I mean, like to the point, especially to that point, that was one of those things. Like, I love when that happens to me in everything, really, and anything in life, but especially sports, where there's something of that nature that I didn't know. Like, I was just talking to my brother about something like this the other day, where I said, "Oh yeah, did you know the Ottawa Senators are like an expansion team, and that they were like founded in 1990 or some shit?" And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, there is like a really old Ottawa Senators that was from like the World Hockey League or whatever, but they're an expansion team." And so that's something I never knew as a kid, that like, they weren't just around forever.
Well, there was originally in the NHL, there was only 6.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Everybody's an expansion.
90 to be, I was 5 years old. So, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't have been aware to an extent of something. I mean, I definitely got into sports in the 90s. So, but anyway, Dennis Eckersley being a starter, that's one of those things. When I was a kid, I thought of him as the shutdown closer with the hair and mustache on the A's. And then sort of, obviously Cardinals.
And some guys completely flub the whole starting thing and then become really good closers. This one's going to hurt from a Mets perspective. How about what Jason Isringhausen did to his career?
Right.
And he actually came back, and I always thought he looked like Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura, but that's a whole nother thing. Think about it. Look at a picture later and tell me you don't see it.
No, he does. There's somebody else that he does kind of look like Jim Carrey, actually. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I feel like there's somebody else that he looks like too, but I can't think of and the Jim Carrey is just in my mind now. So I'm not.
But I wanted to, you brought it up. I wanted to segue because I have a lot to say about what went on today with the Cuomo press conference.
Oh, okay.
There was one major atrocity.
I know what it is, but
that mask that he had on his face.
And I'm so
first of all, there is no piece of paraphernalia that has both the Met and Yankee logo on it that should ever exist.
I was gonna isolate that soundbite too, which is really annoying because I just forgot to do it. And it was so, I don't even remember what he said. It was so corny though, the way he said it. He was like, "The best of both worlds. When I'm at Yankee Stadium, I put it this way. When I'm at Citi Field, I turn it around." It was just
first of all, masks are not supposed to be reversible. There's one part you're supposed to breathe while you're breathing in and out of.
Well, I mean, in theory, if you wash it in between uses.
Yes. Who does that? No, I'm just kidding. But the good that came out of that press conference, I always appreciate seeing a guy like Al Leiter.
Yeah.
CC makes me laugh sometimes too. He's a good personality.
Right. But Al Leiter is like, it actually, that's funny you make that point because I noticed that Al Leiter almost like, and he's a broadcaster now, right? Like, and he's done plenty of broadcasting. So it's like not even necessarily like a fair comparison. But CC is like saying, just, let's keep the fight. We're going to be able to have fans. Let's get it going. Have a full crowd for the World Series. That'd be great. Like a nice, concise statement. And then Leiter like waxes poetic, and he's like, I remember 9/11, the crowd rising to their feet, and we knew the importance of coming back as baseball players. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn, dude, like, just chill. But
the light peeking through as the clouds broke.
Yeah. But no, I love Leiter, and I'll always love Leiter because I mean he was that pitching staff's, he wasn't, I don't know, he wasn't obviously ever really the most dominant pitcher in the league at that point.
No, but he was a heart and soul type guy.
He was such a workhorse for that pitching.
Yeah, and he also, with his gyrations and his mannerisms, and he was like, you always thought there was a bug crawling up his back. He could not stay still.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk, I mean, not quite Jabba Chamberlain bugs on him, but
right. Yeah. The midges.
I still like get so like, I almost have to scratch when I think of that.
Yeah. It's nasty.
How they didn't stop that game.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know how they didn't. I remember that I was, it's funny thinking back on that. I was in the car, and we probably agree to a certain extent. I know one of my favorite things is hearing a baseball game on the radio. And many people beat that, but I remember just how like baffling it was to try to really understand what was going on. They're talking about these midges or bugs or something, and you just can't picture. Like, I remember thinking like, oh, they're buzzing around a lot and in people's eyes, and you can't see or something. I didn't imagine that they were like freaking attached to the guy's neck. You know what I mean? Like,
so talk about the radio though. How spoiled have we been over the years?
Oh yeah,
Murphy
on TV too, though, especially.
Oh yeah, broadcast.
And why?
The jury's still out for me on Wayne. I don't know how I feel about Wayne. He kind of reminds you of like watching old school baseball, and it's like, and that's a home run.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
He's a little bit of a throwback.
He does kind of have that delivery. I know what you mean. Like the old school mic where like you couldn't get too close.
Yeah.
Burst it or something, like it was like,
yeah, he almost sounded like Mel Allen. Like
yeah. Well, no, I mean, look, there's always the biggest problem too in that respect is that, and I think this is true of whoever it was. Did McCarthy used to do the radio?
Yeah.
And then obviously they had
Wayne Hagan, yep.
Who I did not care for.
No, I didn't care for him or McCarthy. Now McCarthy's Phillies TV.
Yeah, that's right. He's Phillies TV
Good
now.
for him.
And then obviously there was Josh Lewin. And
he was pretty good. He was pretty good, but not again. He was kind of another guy. He's like a Western guy. Like I think he came from like doing Texas and San Diego,
and I believe he might be. He spends a lot of time in California or whatever. But yeah, no, I understand what you mean. The biggest problem I think is for anybody who's got to do that job is that they're going to be compared to the other guy that's sitting there in the chair, and unless you were able to somehow get Bob Murphy back from the grave, not too many people are gonna hang with Howie Rose.
No, I have a.
Or if you were able to get Gary Cohen back to do radio again, then
when my dad was in his like 30s, he won a junior sportscaster contest with the Mets.
Nice.
And he got to call an inning with Howie Rose.
That's sick.
In the booth. So like I was really little and I wasn't there for that, but like later we would go and say hello. And we went by the booth and we were standing right by the bathrooms that were right there. And the door opened and it banged into my dad's arm. And he's like, "Excuse me." And it was Vin Scully that was coming out of the bathroom.
Wow.
Talk about broadcasting royalty.
Yeah.
But so that was cool. So he's like, "Have a nice day, young man." And he shook my hand when I was like, I didn't know who it was. I wasn't that tuned in then. I was like 11, 12. Thinking I'm with basically the king of broadcasting.
Right.
And then later on, the Mets had blogger days a lot. And they haven't done that in recent time, but we would get to go and sit in the pregame press conference for the Daily Stash. And like the broadcasters and everything be there. Of course, we'd be too nervous to like walk up to Gary and Keith and bother them around. But I met Howie and Josh Lewin, and Josh Lewin had just gotten hired by the Mets, and he came up to me and Matt. Matt's the co-founder who is now working for the Detroit Red Wings, doing their website.
Nice.
And he's like, yeah, I didn't know much about the Mets, and your site was one of the ones I used to get caught up on it. Like, talk about a compliment.
Yeah.
We were like totally blown away. I was like the nicest thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I just saw that those things used to be organized by Shannon Ford, which I don't know if you saw that recent tribute they did to her.
Not recently.
Yeah, it was all over the place. She was a very nice and wonderful woman, so that was good that they did that too.
Yeah, no, I've heard obviously a lot of different people talk about her, and kind of just, you can't be a Mets fan and not have seen the name and known the
Of course.
had. But I missed that tribute, so I'll have to try to check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think as far as your original point was that it's a joke that Cuomo was
wearing that mask,
double-sided mask, which of course it is. And it was funny. I think the guy, I don't know, is he related to Steve Cohen? Andy Cohen? Is that his brother? He's like the
Andy, like the comedian.
Well, it's the same name, but this guy Andy Cohen is some sort of executive for the Mets front office now.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know what the Cohen is such a popular name that it's
right. Yeah.
I mean, like, is he related to Gary?
And he didn't necessarily look that much like Steve, but
I also know a lot of COENs, but that could be Irish.
Right. Yeah, actually. Or what about CONE? David Cohn.
Yeah. Switch letters around and see what sticks.
Yeah. But this guy made the point, Andy Cohen, at this presser today where they announced the capacity for games, that Cuomo is actually a Mets fan. And, he grew up in Queens, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean, for the political reasons, but apparently he's a Mets fan.
Well, yes, and I had heard that.
You're interested in claiming him right now or not, as a matter of fact.
I don't know if I want to claim him. I might have claimed him before all this garbage with the harassment stuff popped up. Yeah. But I guess that will leave alone. I'm sure that'll play its course, and what's meant to be will be.
Right.
But the other good thing that came out of today is 20% crowd. So the Mets, I believe the number's between 8,000 and 9,000 per game.
It's about 8,500, something like
that. So
those
$16 tickets after opening day should be still pretty readily available. No more printed home tickets.
That's the thing. I mean, look, I was joking with my buddy who's a Phillies fan, and I couldn't help but say, have a little dig. I was like, well, so what do you think? Maybe by about June or something, it won't really matter, whatever the capacity limits are. I mean, I was like, thank God it's not the vet. You know what I mean? You wouldn't need them to begin with. No, I mean, that's the thing. Baseball being what it is and stuff like that, most of the time, you don't even come close to a sellout. So it should be pretty much fine, I guess, to an
Today's attendance is in front of a sold out 8,000. Although I think Yankee Stadium's over 10 for 20%.
It is over 10, yeah.
Yeah, they have a higher capacity.
They also said at the end of the press conference, Cuomo was like, look, this is the starting point. We're going to see what happens. I mean, as this continues to go the one way with more people getting the shot and more hospital workers getting the shot and more older people getting the shot and all that impacting what happens at the hospitals, I think they're going to up the capacity. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be probably every 3 weeks or something like that, where they'll be like, all right, we're going to go to 30. Like,
yeah,
right,
40,
that type of thing.
Yeah. And I'm excited because I wasn't looking forward to getting a COVID test before each game that I go to.
Oh, well, no, you don't have to. Yeah, that's right.
I believe this Friday is my first vaccine test. So I wouldn't be able to go to opening day, but once I get the second round and I have whatever the proof they give you, I don't even know.
You'll have your papers. You'll have your papers.
Yeah, I need to have my papers on me, but I'll just show them. My friend also brought up.
I want to be clear. This is in no way, I'm not saying an Italian thing, but you don't want to be without papers.
My ancestors taught me well. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
Well played. But yeah, it's exciting to know. Hopefully, it'll be pretty seamless. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, again, and I guess they're accepting the rapid test. So that's easier to get than the PCR or whatever.
Actually, it said on the press release PCR.
They're
So
not doing
I'm pretty sure it wasn't the rapid. I'm pretty sure because I don't know if you saw the press release that went out today. I can forward it to you, but it had all the guidelines and it said a PCR test within X amount of days.
Oh wow. Okay. Well then I don't know. Maybe it's also possible that because I was working on it today for the radio station, but it was off of Cuomo's thing. So it's definitely possible that like the state is permitting, let's say, rapid, but
yeah, and the Mets want a PCR. Yeah, they have every right to ask for that.
yeah. So there you go.
And they're supposedly working with some of the places. It's a lot easier to get a COVID test now than it was, 2 months ago.
Right.
You can walk into a City MD or one of those places and get it. It's free.
Yeah.
So you just they're working with a lot of those places. So if you specify you need it by X, even the turnaround time's quicker than it was. So
well,
I don't see it being a problem.
All things considered, and we're talking about Carlos Carrasco's hamstring and all this kind of stuff. I'd much rather a PCR than a PCL or a UC.
And also, yeah, but the word that was used, a strain. People are freaking out because they've used the term tear. He has tear, but every strain is a partial tear.
Exactly.
So some people don't get that. They think they hear strain, it's minor, and tear is major.
Look, we can't be there with everybody with a copy of Grey's Anatomy or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, like
I watch Chicago Med, okay? So I know everything.
Yeah. No, but I mean that's the thing. It's all internal injury of some kind, right? Like whether it's a sprain or a strain or a tear or a bruise, a laceration, a contusion, whatever it may be. I mean,
I should call you Butter. You're on a roll.
Thank you. You know what I mean? Call me doctor. Call me doc. I'm like Dr. K. Like I'm throwing Lord Charles. I wanted to mention the thing about is it Lucchese or is it Yamamoto who throws the churve?
Oh, I think it's Lucchese, but
Lucchese.
I'm not 100. Yeah, it's like a change-up curveball, like meshed thing. Like,
yeah. I love stuff like that. You know what I mean? That as a baseball fan, it's like, okay, I love that stuff. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a screwball or a knuckleball or whatever kind of pitch you don't see that much of.
That's why I had a special place in my heart for R.A. Dickey for that reason. It's just like the guy looked like he exerted. I mean, he could throw 120 pitches and not even start to be tired because it's so much little energy he used.
Yeah. And again, it was so awesome how he threw like a hard knuckleball too. That was like the best part about R.A. Dickey was how he had the soft one, he had the hard one. Yeah,
the hard one could be like 82. He threw pretty. And the only person I've seen that looks more effortless, is that right? Whatever. It was Bartolo. Bartolo always looked like the same.
Yeah.
He's still not officially retired.
I'm going to say, I don't think he is. I mean, last year during
he hit that home run in the DR. Did you see that?
I didn't know he hit a home run, but
he was playing like with friends and he hit a ball and like people just stared. It went like a mile. The guy could still do it. And everybody screamed when he did it. It was funny.
By the way, you reminded me of something with the Bartolo Colon. Prior to Bartolo Colon, and of course, how dare I even say anything, given that he did hit that home run in San Diego. But prior to that, one of the most awful looking guys in the box, most unathletic, and actually really potentially even more so when he was running after hitting the ball, was Al Leiter. I mean, that it was like the dude was running down the first baseline in high heels. I mean,
he definitely wasn't as smooth as Dae-Sung Koo.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, regular season memories.
Right, and that was
when right after Tim McCarver said that this may be the biggest mismatch of all time.
Yeah,
and then he hits the ball up the right center field gap, and Joe Buck's like, "Eat your words." I've watched that video. There'll be a random time I'll think of that and just pull up
just put it on. Yeah, great stuff.
And then he scored on a play
on Eddie Johnson.
Yes, and Reyes bunted him to third. One thing I always hated. I hate the bunt to third. You can score with a single.
Yeah.
I guess the pitcher, whatever. But Reyes bunted to the third, and the home plate was vacant, so he broke for the plate and he was safe. But it was before replay. I think he was out.
Yeah,
but it probably would have. But it was the crowd. David Wright went nuts. It was.
Well, look, I'll take it. Replay giveth, replay taketh away. But back then, good point on that particular game. And of course, we know about the, Johan Santana no hitter. I actually almost wore my Carlos Beltran shirtsy tonight, but I decided that I'd break out the new.
Were you at the Johan game?
No, I wasn't. But I'm just saying, like the whole foul ball that was from Beltran.
Oh, right.
Screwed up. That you can challenge that, right?
Oh, now you can. Well, it depends on. I think it depends on positioning. If it's in front of the umpire or past the umpire, one of those. Okay. Not 100% sure. Yeah. One thing regarding that game, though, my father, who 99% of the time he goes to a Met game, I'm with him. But that happened to be one where he was with his another Met friend, both older guys, both over 60, and both gone to a million games. And that was he went to the Johan game with him. And whatever. I don't know if I was umpiring or working, whatever. But I was home in time to watch the end, and I actually got emotional at home by myself for him. I felt like he came so close so many times. How many times did a guy take out no-hitter 8 innings or something? Even though it is, I guess, slightly asterisked because of the Beltran ball. That was clearly fair.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
but it still counts. And
no, look, I mean, I speaking of being emotional, I mean, my brother and I happened to be hanging out at my cousin's house that night, and kind of watching the game, probably knowing that we were at my cousin's house. It was sort of on and off. We might have flipped back to the Yankees game a couple of times or something, whatever. Just checked out other stuff, and then kind of realized obviously what was going on, and stayed on the game probably for, I don't know, maybe the 6th inning on or something like that. But I mean, we celebrated that as if they had just won the World Series. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget the fact that we were together for that particular moment. But yeah, you just got to say, shout to Mike Baxter, man, because I mean,
he died saving
that. When he died.
That was the end of his baseball career, effectively.
Yeah, that's so effed up.
I know. You know what? There's a lot of Mets that have, you think the last 10, 15 years that have really, that no-hitter for Johan, that destroyed him too.
Right.
I mean, Matt Harvey going out for the 9th inning. I mean, with the high pitch count and what he was doing, Matt Harvey kind of blew himself out. I mean, David Wright was a condition. I don't know if you could say it's hard to do that with position players.
But you know what, though, with David Wright, he carried the weight of the franchise on his shoulders. And you're telling me that can't potentially, who's to say that it can't potentially lead to a,
it's funny. Remember that offseason, both of them were free agents, him and Reyes.
Right.
Who's the one you keep? Everybody's screaming, keep both, keep Reyes, keep Wright. Easy to play Monday morning quarterback after the fact. But the right decision based on what followed was probably letting them both go. Yeah. I mean, because Wright did, except for every time he came back in Philadelphia.
Right.
The guy hit a bomb on the first pitch he saw. Well, he did that twice, I think, after being out for 60 games.
It's true. He owned Citizens Bank Park.
Oh my gosh, that was his.
That was an absolute bomb that he hit that first at bat.
Right.
No, I mean, you're right. It didn't really pan out for the Mets or for either one of them the way you would have really hoped. But obviously for Wright, it was so injury based. And, some people say that the Matt Cain beating was impactful as the, maybe not just as impactful, but a big deal, and took a while for him to get back.
Also him taking part in the home run derby.
Right.
He's changed his swing, and all of a sudden he's uppercutting everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not a
beautiful gap-to-gap approach, man. When he first came up, I mean, he was he was tailor-made for Shea Stadium.
I honestly thought he was going to win a batting title.
Right.
I thought he was that. Those were always my favorite type of hitters. And my favorite non-Met hitter of all time is Tony Gwynn. I mean, I think this is stereotypical, but whatever. But seeing a heavy set guy that could do what everybody else was doing, I loved it. And he was like the smartest hitter too. You guys want to move on? He could put the ball wherever he wanted.
Absolutely. And how about the fact that, again, we made reference to things like this earlier when we talked about Dennis Eckersley being a starter before
Right.
a closer and all this kind of stuff. The Ottawa Senators being expansion teams. But, how about the fact that, and I totally lost my train of thought. I completely lost. What were we
Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn. How about the fact that he was a star basketball player, point guard, I think, when he was at San Diego State or whatever it was, when he was in college, which knowing him more as the 90s Tony Gwynn, because of course when he first came up in the 80s, he wasn't quite as big.
No.
That blew my mind. I was like, Tony Gwynn was a dope basketball player? Tony Gwynn was a point guard?
Yeah, I actually read that if he would have stuck it with basketball, he would have got drafted. Like he would have played in the NBA.
I remember hearing that he was like dope. You know what I mean? And I mean, look, I don't know. There's been times when James Harden was trending a little bit Tony Gwynn with his physique.
Yeah, it didn't stop it. James Harden's been a bat out of hell since he joined the Nets.
That's for absolute sure.
Yeah, so although I don't really love it because I'm a Knicks fan.
Me as well. But you know what? The Knicks are doing better. So
they've been fun.
Yeah.
And you just inspired me to check and see what they're doing because they're playing.
They how many games has it been that they've sort of just been like on again, off again, losing, winning, losing, winning? That was 10 straight games.
10:45 left in the third quarter. They're up 1. All right. And Orlando, they should beat Orlando. But they have like 4 point guards out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think Frank start tonight, or
Frank started. Yep.
Wow. So at least we'll have some good on-ball defense.
So I have a question for you. Completely changing course for a second. So I overheard, and I haven't. Where I live, I don't get very good service of the fan. Trying to put it on even FM, it's just a little out in Suffolk. It's a little garbled. But I happen to see a video come across Twitter.
You live in Yappahannock, Long Island, or something?
And the Yappahank's not far, Miller Place. But when I'm listening to Carton thinks he came up with the Shake Shack trick. Have you heard of this?
No.
Rather than waiting on the Shake Shack line, which if I'm sure you've waited on it before, it takes like an inning and a half minimum to get your food.
Yeah.
He walks to the front of the line, offers to buy the person's food if they'll add his food onto their order. Is that smart, or is that kind of an ass move for everybody else in line?
It's completely unethical. Is it an ass move? I mean, first of all, you said it's Craig Carton who's doing it.
Yeah, he's an ass in general. So
it's an ass move.
Yeah, but it's also kind of smart. Like he has the means, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean, first of all, if that actually happened to me, if I actually saw Craig Carton saying that, I'd be like, whoa, forget that. You can give me $100 bill, and I'll do that. But otherwise,
I'd be totally content with him just buying my food for me because that's part of the deal. He would pay for your order and his.
You know what I mean? But again, what's the money to him? To him, waiting online is probably worth like $500. Anyways, I'm giving him a huge discount here.
Yeah, he's sitting in like the 4th row. We're going back to our nosebleed seat.
Yeah. I mean, look, he could pay the guy over in the corner there to wait online for him, but it would probably cost him more than I'm charging. So, here at the point of attack, let's get something done.
Look at you, the expert negotiator. I'm the submissive who just rolls over and gives in.
What's going to take you to not walk away from this line without giving me the money?
That's funny. So let me ask you, I'm going to go back so we come full circle. So before I talked about Walker, who do you think is the most important pitcher right now, considering everything that's going on? And Jacob deGrom.
Well, right, let's just say that's not. Well, you can't say him.
No, right? like a wild card, a swing guy that can really keep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, we already talked about him, but I think it's Stroman. You know what I mean? Like, I think a guy like Stroman is supposed to be. I guess if you want to use the terminology or the way of thinking that we did kind of, half hour ago, he's supposed to be towards the top end of the rotation in terms of facsimile of performance more times than not. You know what I mean? Like, he's not supposed to be a back end starter type most of the time, or even almost any of the time, even though we know he's going to have maybe some not so great starts or whatever. He's not Jacob deGrom, right? He's not necessarily a lock to be the so-called number 2 or whatever. He is a guy who throughout the course of his career has been a guy who pitched like an ace at times, and also has been kind of just like sort of middle rotation status. But he's getting older now. He's getting more in control of his pitches, his repertoire. Obviously, mentally, you would think he's sort of taking an additional step because he's that much more mature, and he's pitching in front of the home crowd and all this kind of stuff. He seems motivated because the contract situation. So I think it's all up to him whether or not that rotation maintains the standard that we've sort of come to expect in our mind when you think back to, when it was deGrom, Harvey, Syndergaard, and ascendant Steven Matz, who was pitching much better than obviously what he did the last year or, the year before that. So I think you're looking at a guy who, if he pitches like, a 3 ERA guy, and obviously it's oversimplification to sort of like say stats or whatever, but if he's kind of like being that type of dude, then I think they're going to be largely fine, even if Carrasco or Syndergaard don't come back until June or whatever it may be.
I think the bullpen is a big factor too here, because you got to expect those 4 and 5 guys at minimum. The Joey Lucchesi, Yamamoto, Peterson. There's going to be a couple of 4-inning, 5-inning outings, or even less when you need to be bailed out. And one guy you pointed out, I believe last episode, who's been lights out so far this spring, has been Miguel Castro, who's not walking anybody.
Yeah.
So if that, again, it's spring. It's different when the crowd's out there, and then the crowd will be out there. So nobody tell Edwin Diaz. But so when push comes to shove, if he's a really valuable contributor to this bullpen, the story changes. Familia and Betances could be mop-up type guys because both of them are having their issues. So I would hate to put them in a high-end spot. We do have Trevor May. Even Loop gave up a run today. He's really their lefty, and I kind of hope they keep a second lefty, but I don't think it's a guarantee.
Well, look, I think that there is a lot of different ways to potentially make what they've got going on with their bullpen work, because I would be happy to see a Familia or a Betances more in the sort of mop up or kind of break glass in case of emergency type of 5th inning, 6th inning, whatever type of role. But yeah, Miguel Castro, talk about the running theme of the show, things that you maybe didn't know and then randomly see online. I didn't realize the dude is 6'5".
Yeah, he's a big boy.
I guess I just sort of didn't realize that, or sometimes it's tough to tell height on a baseball field in some ways.
I know the guy who I felt like had the most towering presence of any pitcher I can remember, it was Randy Johnson. Do you remember how tall he was?
6'10".
Was he that tall?
Something like that.
Yeah, I gotta look
it up now.
Oh, who's gonna win? You are. My thing just froze.
Randy Johnson, 6'10".
And it's funny because his delivery, he kind of came over to the side a little bit.
He did. He had a little bit of a sidearm.
Yeah.
And, I can't remember who it was that was talking about it, but I remember them saying that when you faced him, it was almost like he was just reaching out and putting the ball in the catcher's glove. he just puts it there.
Right.
But yeah, no, he was absolutely unbelievable from a height perspective. Obviously, there's some guys who.
Chris Young, remember how tall Chris Young was?
Chris Young, I believe, was also about 6'10", and he was a great college basketball player for Princeton. As a matter of fact, he was a forward as a
It really it's fascinating to me, the guys that choose baseball over basketball, because I get.
Well, I don't know if he was going to be able to go pro in
right. I guess it depends on. Let's say all things are considered.
Maybe he was, though. I don't know.
Because the NBA, with the guaranteed money, in baseball, you got to go through all those levels of the minors.
That's true.
Even like that. That's why I understand if, LeBron James was an amazing wide receiver. That story. But obviously, with the NFL and no guaranteed money, that was an easy decision for him.
Well, yeah, and also just the fact that in the NFL, you're a subject to absolute violence, and in the NBA, he touched me.
Yeah, in the NBA, no CTE in the NBA.
Yeah. Not to say that you can't get injured in the NBA and playing basketball because they have
any sport,
leg and knee and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just ask Kristaps Porzingis.
Right, or Gordon Hayward.
Oh yeah, I was so happy the Knicks didn't sign him
this time around.
No, yeah, he's if the Knicks would have signed him, he would have blew his leg out.
Yeah.
He's a good scorer, but he's over 30, and that's just not the direction they should go.
Yeah. How are the Hornets are doing pretty well, right?
The Hornets, I think they're in the playoff spot, but I'm not.
What's his name? The ball that went there is very good.
Oh yeah, LaMelo.
Mellow Ball.
Yeah, he's been doing really well. I think he's probably the rookie of the year right now.
Sounds like a soda, Mellow Ball, like a lemon lime soda or something.
We haven't heard LeVar. Don't you miss him?
No, but you're right. We haven't.
It wouldn't shock me at all. I'm not saying right now if Lonzo ended up on the Knicks. That almost feels like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I was reading that. I guess is he going to be a free agent?
I think the Pelicans want to trade him. So we'll see.
Well,
but I think he's on expiring too. So who knows?
So speaking of that type of thing, and this is potentially a good way to close up shop with the show. There hasn't really been much to talk about or much reported with the Francisco Lindor free agency.
Conforto too,
or contract extension, and same thing with Conforto.
Yeah.
And Lindor, Conforto's had a good spring, right? I mean, he's been doing his thing, and I think he look good. His numbers are good, and Lindor has been starting to hit. He's been looking good. I think he had a multi-hit game yesterday or the other day or whatever it was.
It's funny you bring that up. Because I do a lot of fantasy baseball. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
And I saw, because I was in the middle of a draft for Fantrax, I think it was. That's one of the websites that hosts. And they had the projections for Conforto, and it blew my mind. 22 and 77. No way. He's more like 30 and 90. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised. Maybe they're sort of bearish on the Mets lineup in general then.
Yeah, but I think the Mets lineup in general, I like what they've been doing with Nimmo and Lindor at the top. I think that's
I think that the thing about the Mets lineup is that there's probably just a lot of uncertainty towards guys that you and I would probably say people who haven't watched the team or followed them as closely. It might not be it's not as justified of skepticism as it might seem. Like, for example, there might be some people, especially when using, projection software or whatever it may be, that look at a Dominic Smith last year as like a little bit fluky, or that maybe Conforto's numbers were significantly higher on like the batting average side than what we've kind of known him to be. You know what I mean? Because he's had years where he was more in like the 250s or whatever it may be.
Wow.
But I think that there's something to be said for both those guys kind of like entering their prime as hitters. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. I also think
for a while now, they've learned a lot at the major league level. And I think what we saw from them wasn't just sort of like a hot streak last year. It was guys that are kind of putting that first round pedigree on display at this point.
And it took Dom a while. Good for the Mets to be patient with him. They could have traded him for a bag of baseballs. Yeah. And what would we be talking about right now? How they screwed up their assessment, but they waited. Hey, looks like we got a visitor.
Yeah, we got Boz. Is that I don't know how to pronounce the screen name, but anybody's saying what's up? What's up, Boz?
What's up, Boz? But a guy like this lineup, I mean, I think Nimmo, Lindor, I don't know if people are going to argue that, especially with Lindor switch hitting. Conforto 3. One thing we haven't discussed, the home run king a couple years ago with his rookie season, Pete Alonso has been locked in.
Yeah.
Great to see.
And so he's going gap to gap. I mean, I saw some doubles to right center. I saw. Okay, I know who John of Sweden, by the way, is who's connected here. So he's a fan of my other podcast, but he's a huge Mets fan. He's a Yankees fan. So we cast
an Yankees fan.
No, he's not a Mets fan. He's just a Yankees fan, but he's a fan of my other podcast.
Is he infiltrating? Is he spying for the other side? What's going on here?
I don't know. John of Sweden, explain yourself. I know he'll say that he's just a baseball fan in general, but he is in fact a Yankee fan. So
welcome.
Alonso's been totally locked in. I've been seeing some frozen ropes to right center. That gets me very excited because
I love going with the pitch.
So amazing about him his rookie year that I think there was a little bit sort of less of last year was he was flailing a little bit and kind of like letting that outside pitch beat him, where I think his rookie year staying on that outside fastball, for example, was a real strength of his, and the absolute piss rods that he would hit to like right center. I mean, he looked like Mike Piazza at times his rookie year.
Yeah, and he's certainly as powerful to be compared to. And I think also with the versatility of this lineup, okay, you talk about Dominic Smith last year. So let's say we have 1 through 4 figured, Conforto 3, Alonso 4. Is 5 the spot you're putting Dominic Smith? I think that makes more sense. He's got more power. I think that's a good.
Where are you batting McNeil?
That's the interesting part. And so now you got the lefty. So I think I'm turning around and putting J.D. Davis at 6. So I think I'm putting McNeil 7th and then McCann 8th. I think that is probably the best allotment, and that's no insult on McNeil. McNeil is an aggressive hitter. Although he'll pop his few leadoff home runs, I think Nimmo's better suited for working the pitcher up there. He'll get on base. Then
what about the notion that, and look, I like Nimmo a lot, and I actually think Nimmo's going to have a big year. But what about the notion that you want to have your best hitters get as many at-bats as possible?
Yeah, so you're that's why Lindor hit second, right? Because I think he's probably the best hitter in the lineup now.
Yeah, that's sort of the new age way of thinking about it.
Right. Alonso hit a lot of number 2.
Yeah, he did actually, and that's a good example of that whole theory and practice. I mean, look, I don't really have any problem with any of it. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of the time lineup gets a little bit overdone. Yeah, and I think that from what you hear from the players, it seems to matter the most to them that they kind of have their spot. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, sure, you do hear about, especially when a guy like starts batting 5th of the year or something, and then if he gets dropped to 7th or 8th, then there's the quotes in the papers like, yeah, my feelings are a little hurt or like whatever it may be. But I think that all things being equal, if I was going to go your route, I'd probably have McNeil and then McCann and then Dom. And I'm not playing J.D. Davis at 3rd. I'm playing Luis Guillorme at 3rd.
I think he's going to get some play. It's funny because this is going to blow your mind. I'm in a 30-team keeper league. So that's
awesome, by the way. I love that.
Not only that, I think we have something like each roster with minors and stuff. It's like 60.
Wow. You guys have minors. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. You have to do like insane.
It's so nerdy.
It's so insane with the research and stuff. But Luis Guillorme is on my bench.
Hey.
A guy like that actually has value in league.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, especially honestly, I think that, and I'm not trying to, make any kind of statement here, but I think that when it comes to that type of situation, he's got some upside, because I wouldn't be shocked if he plays a lot for them this year.
Well, I got news for you. All it takes is one injury. If one of Lindor, Davis, or McNeil go down, that's his job.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one thing we're forgetting. Jonathan Villar is also part of the team.
That's true. Yeah. Villar is going to make it a little cloudier, but
which he'll be kind of that jack of all trades. Not a great defensive player. We would have been talking about Jose Martinez, but he's out 4 months. That's another guy that already dropped. And then, so the Mets are going to have some guys that are going to be coming back after the first couple, month or two.
Yeah.
Between Syndergaard and now we're going to be missing Carrasco and Seth Lugo. I mean, another huge piece. So,
well, look,
you know what? The key just has to be win series. Win series, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3.
That's exactly right. And that's why I said when I first started the show, I said, this is a good thing that it happened with Carrasco, that it happened right now. It was going to happen. It always does. You don't go through a year without starters getting hurt.
All right.
And all things considered, while it would be nice to sort of space it out and make it happen with Carrasco, I guess, if you're the baseball gods, when it's not Noah Syndergaard still trying to come back and when, the bullpen's not at full strength because of Lugo and stuff like that. But that's not the way it works. That's not
right. And guess what? We're not going to have to look at Chris Flexen every 5 days or Corey Oswald.
And thank God, because as many times as much as I'm a proponent of talking about Tony Gwynn, and it all comes full circle, as much as I'm a proponent of the sports theory, don't let the bad body fool you. I had a bad feeling when I saw Chris Flexen's dumper up there. I just said to myself, you know what? This guy does not look like.
Although look at him having himself a good winter and getting guaranteed money from Seattle.
Hey, look, you know what? All more power to him. He went to Korea, he got it done, and he's back.
He's in the best shape of his life, right?
Best shape of his life. You know what I mean? And that's what happens in spring training. So
yes, comeback player of the year, either Chris Flexen or Matt Harvey. Which one?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And actually, Matt Harvey's hurt. Did you see?
Already? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's got an oblique, so he's going to be out until like at least May or something.
I always want to root for the former Mets. I mean, as long as they're not like a Yankee or an NL East player. But
I mean, I don't really remember ever sort of like vicariously enjoying like Jeff Kent's success, but most of the time.
Well, that stings because of a trade the Mets shouldn't have made, but. And he's one of the best second, maybe I don't know, is he the best second baseman they ever had? Probably a Hall of Famer that should get in.
Oh, I don't know. Are you counting Edgardo Alfonso?
Yeah, it's pretty close
because he played a lot of third as well too. But.
Yeah, Fonzie was. It's another thing. I was at that 10-run 8th inning. Oh, that was amazing.
Oh, you were there.
I wanted to leave, but my family didn't want to leave because of the fireworks. It was fireworks night.
Well, I'll never forget that game. And come my birthday this year, we will definitely have to, because that was my birthday, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
That was June 30th of 2000. So
yeah, you had a good birthday that day.
I had a good birthday.
The 2 games that I'll never forget, regular season wise, above all else, are that game and the first game after 9/11. I was at that one too.
Oh wow, jeez.
That was, and I remember being like uneasy and not knowing and. Yeah. It was just a lot of emotion, and it's.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I had no idea that you were at that game. When we're doing our episode in and around 9/11, you're going to have to definitely tell me.
100%. I still remember it like it was 5 minutes ago.
But, and I believe that. But, look, all things considered, Carrasco's injury, definitely a bit of a bummer. But I'll say here on March 18th, a good day, because we found out that we will be able to go to Mets games this year.
Absolutely.
We'll chalk that up as a positive. And before we go, I've got a final comment from our listener, John of Sweden, who we previously identified is, in fact, a Yankees fan. He says,
"Yes, actually from Sweden."
He's from Sweden, yes.
Oh wow! So we've gone international.
We've gone international. So look, the Metropolitans go international. But
what was his comment? I didn't hear.
He says, "I'm on Cashman's payroll." So yeah, he is spying.
Okay.
And he said, "What are you guys looking forward to the most in regards to the Mets this upcoming season?" So I'll let you answer that, and we'll close on that.
Okay. What am I looking forward to? Watching just all things Jacob deGrom and Francisco Lindor.
Okay, so wait a second. That I guess it's not that crazy or weird or whatever. I wasn't going to say the Lindor thing, but I literally was going to be like, I just can't wait to watch deGrom just gasoline over the guy, just strike 12, 13 guys out and just be like, oh, this guy's so nasty.
Yeah, and I'm such a homer too, because in that, it's not that league, but another league I'm in, I have deGrom, with the one with my friends, like my close high school friends. And it's another keeper league, and I turned down a 3-player offer for deGrom that included Christian Yelich. And I was like, nope, I'm not. I have Alonso on that team too. Go figure.
I love it. Well, you know what? It's like we always say when we end the program here on Flipping the Mic, right?
Absolutely. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets, baby. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to see you guys all at Citi Field.
Later, Sweden.
in 2021. And goodbye, Sweden. Goodbye, Sweden. That'll be like our pardon the interruption. We'll say goodbye, Sweden, instead of Canada.
Or Sweden out.
Yeah, Sweden out. Exactly.